This is the Darby Cathedral. Are you not impressed? Standing before you today is the second highest perpendicular church tower in England. All right, that might not be the most impressive claim. It's not the highest, and it's got to be perpendicular, and it's got to be specific in England. But even that claim, outside of the cathedral's website, turns out probably not true. Well, what am I doing in the city of Derby anyway? Annoyingly not pronounced Derby. Well, Derby just won a very prestigious award. The worst city in all of the UK for a staycation. Yikes. Derby ranked poorly in food and drink, accommodation, cultural sites, and the retail scene. Some of you might be wondering, Evan, what exactly is there to a city then? Well, today, I'm gonna find out. This is my first time visiting this city. I'm here just because, what a tantalizing idea. This is the worst city? Have the readers been to Luton? They've referred to Derby as rundown and a dump. Really? Okay, we're gonna find that out. Today I'm gonna be crafting an ideal itinerary for a one-day visit to Derby, using the same sources anyone else has, that being Google, Reddit, and ChatGPT. And speaking of Reddit, you might know me as Evan Edinger, that YouTuber that sometimes reads out interesting Reddit threads or compares the US and the UK on his channel. It's a bit of a grab bag here. But I think for our first stop, we're gonna stop by a place in Derby I've looked up called Bear, known as one of the best coffees in all of the city. And I'm a bit of a coffee snob, so we'll see about that. Now, obviously people from the Midlands, they hate two types of people. One, Londoners. Two, Americans. Baby, I'm your worst nightmare. Let's go get some coffee.
Bear is a small coffee chain founded and based in the Midlands with no locations down south, so it felt like the perfect place to test the reviews, saying Derby had bad options for food and drink.
Right off the bat, I'm quite impressed at Bear because I've never had this in any place in London. It's called a brew board, and for £5.30, you know, the cost of one bloody flat white in London, I get 3 different types of coffees. First, an espresso, then a piccolo, and finally, a filter coffee, my favorite. So I can sample all the different styles of coffee for the price of one in London. Already right off to a good start in Derby. You want some?
No, I'll smell it. Smell it.
Oh.
In quite a big surprise, the coffee we had at Bear was excellent. Not only was every coffee complex and delicious with no notes of bitterness, but they cost half of what they would cost in London. Big win.
Oh my God, that is delicious as well. Whoa, they know their coffee here in Derby. Wow, it's Jesus.
Very nice.
It's very nice. The espresso is delicious. This is one of the nicest coffees I've had in the UK. This is phenomenal. So Derby, really good start. Wow, I was really here to slate this place. The coffee's delicious, by the way. It's fucking great.
It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah.
It's better than you can get in London in a lot of places, so
Really?
very impressed. Yeah. And they serve tots. The American in me is very happy. Can I get some of those tots?
Yeah, of course you can. Definitely.
And American pancakes.
Now, one thing Derby is supposedly known for is pikelets, which are similar to crumpets. So before we went on to our next destination, we tried the local bakery to see if we could grab any.
It is a Sunday. Do you have pikelets? That makes sense.
So no luck at our first attempt at pikelets, but maybe our luck will improve after we visit the museum.
We've now moved on to the Museum of Making, who claim they're the world's first modern factory. It's actually in what used to be a silk mill, and now it's a museum dedicated to the act of creation. So it's a massive museum. I'm excited. Come on in. We'll see what's going on there. I wonder where this beautiful picture is from. Can you believe? It's from Derby. That's lovely. Honestly, this kind of makes me sad. We're in the back of a big museum section, and I don't know, just a memorial to some of the people who passed away from the general stores department in World War I, the Great War, but perpetual memory, hidden away in the back of a museum.
As a creator myself, I really enjoyed seeing all the different exhibits around the Museum of Makers, but I can imagine this is the kind of museum that would be an even bigger hit with kids, as there's actually a lot of interactive exhibits.
Is this the water wheel? Oh, that's interesting.
She's a solicitor, not an engineer, guys. She's not a maker.
There were fun ones involving cogs,
This is not turning out very well.
However, wow.
frottage, if that's how you pronounce it, these spinning toys that you can make, and a giant model train set.
Oh, look at that viewing platform for ants.
That wasn't running for us. A shame. But they even had a section for more digital makers.
One of the people I never expected to be from Darby is Lara Croft from Tomb Raider. She was actually invented by a Darby-based video game company called Core Design in 1996. I don't know what they were inspired by, maybe the many caverns around Derbyshire, but there you go. Little Derbyshire fact we learned at the Museum of Making. All right, for those PC gamers out there, we also have one of the largest cool, sick PC rig heat pumps I've ever seen. Interestingly, it's almost carbon neutral when using renewable energy. So, I mean, another diminutive, another like...
Yes, for those wondering, I'm officially announcing that ringing the bell next to the subscribe button on my YouTube channel is now almost entirely carbon neutral when you connect your phone to a solar panel.
Bring back do not spit signs.
But before we left, we found some very interesting creations indeed.
They're bubbles.
Okay.
You know. So the quiz question is, after experiencing the Museum of Making, what year do you think this museum was opened? Heather's guess was in the last 15 years. Bliss's was in the last 20 years. The correct answer is within the last 3. 2021 in September, this was opened up. Interesting. Hardly run down or a dump if they're opening up new museums. However, really important to note is that, yet again, this is another example of Darby saying, this is the world's first museum. But then there's a hidden ... which is, well, this is on the site of the first ever silk mill. There's not really much left except that original gateway and some archways that I'm putting over the screen right now. So kind of like stretching the truth to be like, Darby. They were trying to come up with a name for this town, and they were like, we'll put a church here. What else will stand the test of time? And he was like, this isn't good.
They were like, this is...
What? Stand well?
So far, my main issue with Darby is just how self-aggrandizing it is when none of it is really necessary. It doesn't need to be the second highest perpendicular church tower in England when it can just be a really nice cathedral. In fact, when the gang and I visited Darby Cathedral, one of the people there gave us a super lovely tour of the place and the fascinating history behind it, just because we seemed like nice new people to the area. That's that Midlands charm I've heard so much about.
That's the Celtic Hall, so she was the grandmother of Devonshire's.
And when asked about the claim about the church tower, our guide had this to say.
Is this really the second highest perpendicular spire in England? That's what the website says.
Well, if it says that, it must be.
And that's called faith, folks. But this is all well and good for those after a city break. But what kind of nature does Darby seem to offer?
Oh wow, look how big that hill it's just really pretty up ahead. So we've just walked halfway through this massive space called Darby Park. I honestly haven't seen a park this large near a city center in most any places in the UK. Hyde Park's large, but let me just show you what this place looks like on a map. Sure, you're like, wow, Darby Park's large. It just keeps going. You pretty much keep walking, keep cycling. There's so much green spaces. And you might be wondering why we're, well, so far out here rather than showing you off the city center. There is an interesting comment I found from Reddit, which basically says, the worst part about Darby is the city center. The best part is the surrounding countrysides and the Peak District. The name's Shire. Derbyshire. Now, the fact that we could just walk for about 15 minutes and get to this massive green space is a huge perk of this area. I'm beginning to think that the people that were polled that said Darby is the worst city in the UK, I think maybe it's because not all the cities were available to choose from. Maybe it was the ones that were available to vote on. Sure, maybe Darby is the worst of the best, but I don't know. As someone who's been to Walsall, I don't think Walsall was on the list. Everyone's out and enjoying the place. Either way, plan now is to enjoy the rest of this park, and then we're gonna head back to the city center to visit the Darby Computer Museum, which I'm really excited because it's only open once a week, and I've heard they got the coolest retro tech.
So far, our day out in Darby was turning out to be a lot better than expected. It didn't hurt that it was actually 25 degrees out this day, so that's probably one of the reasons why Darby's sometimes called Darbados. Maybe. So, we quickly scoffed up the Midlands brand ice cream we found in the park and popped on a bus back to the city center to have another go at finding some Pikelets. Next, we walked to the Darbyan, a massive shopping center smack dab in the middle of Darby. But supposedly, Darby has no retail scene? Doubt.
So on our way to the Darby Computer Museum, we just stopped by this local shopping center, or mall as I'd call it. Surprisingly, there's a huge mall here, despite the fact that this was literally rated as having no retail scene. I mean, does this look like no retail scene to you? It's a huge food court.
The stores within the Darbian were also name brand ones that people would actually want to visit, compared to some shopping centers I've been to, like the depressing one in Maidenhead that pretty much just has no-name shops that are all falling apart. Like, come on now. The retail scene in Derby beats Maidenhead hands down.
That was a massive food court. Look at this. This is like a Westfield. It's not. But basically, this is wide. This is a huge shopping center.
But we'd come to the Darbian for one specific thing.
Hello. Hey up. Do you have pikelets?
We don't sell them, I'm afraid.
No. Do you know where I can get some in Derby?
No idea.
And yet again, we came up dry. I don't know why it's so hard to find pikelets in the city. Maybe it's because it's Sunday, but hey, one of the big differences between London and the cities up north, and by up north, of course, as a Londoner, I mean any city north of London, is that shops really do just close early, and they also just close on Sundays. So our quest for pikelets might sadly come up short, but the thought of our next destination filled us with determination.
Welcome. Really appreciate you guys opening up for us today.
As a huge tech nerd myself, I absolutely loved the Derby Computer Museum.
This is 70s, 80s room.
Is the Acorn the computer that was made in England?
All these were. These are the great-great-great-great-grandfathers of your mobile phone.
So is this just set up out of the love of it, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
He was like, I have all these computers. Might as well make a museum.
And then donations upon donations upon donations. That's CFAX pulling data from BBC website.
Oh, I was going to say, does it still exist?
Yes.
So it's
No, somebody's got...
What's CFAX?
Basically, analog TV, you've got scan lines.
Yeah.
You've got extra bits where you can shove data in.
Oh.
And the Brits, especially BBC and ITV and Channel 4,
Yeah.
transmitted text data in the gaps.
There's something so heartwarming about the font.
Yeah, it is.
That's very nice. Also triggering in a way.
Yeah.
Get off the internet!
Followed closely by download cancelled.
That's great.
You can tell just how much love and knowledge actually went into the place, and I was finding myself getting super excited at seeing so much of the tech that I grew up with.
Next is a Japanese room.
Yeah! Super Street Fighter 2. That was a classic.
The whole spiel of the Derby Computer Museum is to preserve the history of the old computers and video games made before the year 2000.
Okay, you got one.
Not just to be locked away behind a glass case, but rather to interact with now just as you would have many moons ago.
When I was like 5, it was like, this is the future.
Yeah, this is actually...
You can aim and and then I think it was what, 15 years until the Wii came out, which is actually motion controlled and stuff.
They had a British room, a Japanese room, a PC room, and an Apple room. And they even had the old BBC computer.
Whoa, micro machines.
This is the British gaming room, so all these games have been done by British software houses.
When GoldenEye came out, my mom said those children are never going to play a shooting game. They're not allowed to have it. So my dad bought it for himself for Christmas and went, oh, I guess the kids can play with me. Oh my God, Palm Pilot. You can organize your life without paper.
Or a phone. It had no storage, therefore anything you stored on it only lasted as long as it had battery power. So you were constantly having to sync it with your computer,
Or it would erase.
or you'd lose everything.
Oh my God.
And like I said, the computers here are fully operational. So Heather tried her hand at a game I played when I was 7. Lemmings.
There you go, over. You found lemmings.
Oh, you found lemmings.
She tried her best.
You take one of the lemmings.
Oh, I tried to use a scroll wheel, but that's not invented yet. Bliss, I need you to hack in the mainframe, please.
Okay, I'm on it.
Enhance.
The alarm, the arm.
We're open Saturdays 10 till 4, last entry at 3 o'clock. You can pay on the door or book online. We do take donations. There's a whole part of the website for that. And same for volunteering if you've got free time.
And you've been around the UK a bit. Would you say that Derby is actually the worst city in the UK?
No, not by a long shot.
And finally, we figured we'd give our quest for the Derby Pikelets one last attempt at a place sure to sell them. M&S.
Hello. So I'm from London, and we've been searching all over for pikelets. Do you know where I can get a pikelet? I don't even know what it is. Hey, we'll try that, thank you.
Yeah, because it's like putting a crumpet, like just eating a crumpet without toasting it.
We're going to the best bakery in all of Derby, Marks and Spencer's. Can we get a pikelet? Oh my God. Oh, it's buttermilk. I'm so excited I finally found these.
Ah, well, they may not be fresh, but at least we have them. So we decided to spend the rest of our time in Derby as an actual Derbyan would, at the local pub. A pint and a half of good lager, 2 pork pies, and a cheese and onion cob, all for less than the cost of 2 pints at my gaff down London town, innit?
Stop by the Brunswick Inn near the station for a bit of a pork pie. And some real cascale. This one's pick and mix. So what do you do with the brown goo?
That's Branston pickle.
Oh!
You know?
I've heard of it. I like how in Sheffield they're like, Henderson's. And here they pretend it doesn't exist.
I feel like if London pubs had the same prices as they do up in Derby, I might actually go more often rather than feeling like I'm eating up all my savings on mid-rate beer. But after a jam-packed day full of great coffee, cultural sites, history, and some great food, we finally boarded our train back home. So, here I am back at home, now with a fresh haircut. First of all, I think we should be taking these sort of negative lists with a grain of salt. It feels like their entire point is to drum up clicks by getting people upset that their city has been called a rundown dump. And they just choose a different one every year to get more advertising dollars, or rather pounds, by calling your city disgusting the next year. Especially as I found this article that was referencing the survey. They say, we asked Times and Sunday Times journalists to defend the worst cities to visit, and only got 9 responses. No one volunteered to stand up for Derby. Well, I guess I'm here to stand up for Derby. If you live in Derby and you feel like you're living in a rundown dump, all you have to do is take an hour or so train to Walsall, and I'm sure you won't feel so bad about living in Derby anymore. Also, I was only in Derby for like a single day, so obviously the situation might change. If this was a place that I lived, I wouldn't be going to the Museum of Making every day, for instance. But the survey wasn't about that. It was about a staycation, which, what even is that? A portmanteau of stay, vacation? Sure, but then that's exactly what I did, and it really wasn't that bad compared to other places I've been to. Now, another city that is on this list that I also visited was actually Sheffield. I made an entire video from Sheffield that's hopefully coming in the near future. Also, I know you're probably wondering, Evan, how are those Pikelets? Stringing us along for the Pikelets. Oh, you gotta tell us about them Pikelets. Well, before I talk about those, one of the biggest issues of living in a big city is the feeling of loneliness, especially if you're someone like me who uprooted and changed countries. But I got an email from the sponsor of today's video, Time Left, inviting me to try out their app to solve this very problem, which allows you to possibly expand your friend group and meet more interesting people all over a nice bite to eat. Basically, the way that Time Left works is you sign up, you fill out a quick little questionnaire asking questions about what type of music you like, do you consider yourself funny or smart, and so on and so forth. Then you tell them what area of the city you're in and what rough budget you'd have for a meal out. Then their algorithm matches you up with a group of about 6 people. They book you a table and you get to know each other. The app has a lot of questions and games you can follow along with throughout the evening to get to know each other a little better. And then after you're done with your meal, you get to choose in the app how many of the people that you're with you actually vibed with. Or obviously you can just share your phone numbers if you both are so inclined. I am a big fan of respecting people's privacy, especially during a paid brand endorsement, so I didn't record anyone at my little gathering there, but they were all really nice, and this is actually the only thing I kind of recorded, which was how I started the evening. Yeah, so I meet a group of people trying to show off their best selves and meet new interesting people, and I spill my drink on the table. That's who I am. But, you know, Time Left does seem really useful for instance, travelers. One of the people that was in our group was from Chicago, had flown in that day, and just was interested in going to a top-rated restaurant in London and meeting British people talking about British things, because he had used it in Chicago before. And I was like, wow, actually, that's such a sick idea. And yeah, I personally just felt like it was just a nice thing to do, just a night out with people, very low stakes. You know, if you don't actually vibe with anyone, that's fine. You had a nice meal, you had an interesting time. So if you'd like to give Time Left a go, they've given me a code. You can get 25% off your first purchase of a single ticket. So check the video description box for more information on that. Thank you to Time Left for sponsoring. And now it's Pikelet time. All right, he's now been well toasted and buttered. It tastes like a low-calorie crumpet. Not bad. I'm sure they taste much better if I'd actually found a real place in Derby that sold fresh ones. There are quite a few, just not open on Sunday. Well, if you want to see something that's open on Sunday, my YouTube channel, every single week. Haven't missed a video in, well, over 10 years at least, so thanks for tuning in. Derby's not so bad. I'll see you next Sunday.